Hi class, welcome to our second online how-to video. In this video I'm going to show you how to calculate measures of central tendency, and also in this video we are going to create another graph similar to the last how-to video. However, we're going to expand upon that graph. We're going to do some additional things and I'll show you in the video how to do that. And again, remember, with graphs, I think I spoke about it before in the last video, graphs are very, very important in statistics. And so the more we do it, the more we practice making graphs, the better you're going to get. Just like with a lot of things, a lot of other things in life. Again, the more you do it, the more repetition, the better you become at that skill. And then the same thing applies with graph making. Similar to the last video, I'm going to, in this video, work practice problems that are identical to the practice problems that you will see in this assignment, assignment 2. The only difference is the data. Okay, so just like before, in this video, the data that I'm using, it's going to be different than the data that you have for your assignment 2. Now, again, the data for this week is going to be on vertical jump testing. And the data that I will be showing in this example will be vertical jump scores in younger adults. However, the data that you'll be using in your assignment 2 will be vertical jump data scores in older adults. And again, a little bit of background on the vertical jump test. Vertical jump test is one of the most commonly performed tests to assess muscle power, lower body power in patients and in athletes. And you might think, well, gosh, you know, I can certainly see why vertical jump performance would be important for sports, for athletic performance. But gosh, you know, is muscle power, is that important for older adults? Is it important for clinical populations? And the answer to that question is yes. There's lots of research to suggest that having adequate muscle power is very important for the performance of activities of daily living in clinical populations. And so activities that maybe us as younger adults take for granted, for example, standing up from a chair, walking, perhaps recovering from a loss in balance to avoid a fall. All of those things require a certain level of muscle power. And so again, the vertical jump test is a great assessment to test muscle power. And so, and again, it's a good assessment of not only power, but overall health as well. And so that's going to be the focus in this example and in your assignment number 2 is data taken from a vertical jump test, and you're going to use that data to answer questions on the assignment. Again, a little bit more on vertical jump. The scores that are typically used in the vertical jump test are vertical jump height, and so how high one can jump off the ground. And those are the scores that you'll see in your assignment and in this example here today. Those scores are vertical jump heights measured in centimeters. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit of background, FYI. What are these scores? What do they actually mean? Yeah, these scores are actually heights, vertical jump heights, how high someone's able to jump off the ground. And again, the higher someone is able to jump, the higher the height, the better the performance. The more power, the healthier that patient is. And so, yeah, so again, that's a little bit of background on what we're doing here today. So let's go ahead and I'm going to minimize this and then pull up our assignment. And similar to the last video, I've got the assignment over here on the right side, and I've got a new blank Excel worksheet over here on the left. Again, like the last video, we're going to be using Excel to help answer questions on this assignment here. Okay, and so this assignment, let's take a look over here on the right side, assignment 2. Very similar to the assignment that you have this week. Again, the only difference is the data that I'm using is different. The data that I'm using, like I said earlier, is vertical jump test scores in a group of young males. Your data is going to be different. Okay, your data is going to be vertical jump scores in older males. Take a look here at the very beginning. I go ahead and provide for you a spreadsheet of vertical jump scores. And so unlike last week where I just provided you the raw data and you had to manually input into the Excel spreadsheet the scores, I've already done the work for us. Okay, so you don't have to do that this week. I've already got the subject numbers in the first column, the vertical jump scores in the second column here. Again, for each score, right, there's a subject, one subject for each score. And so yes, so that's already taken care of for us. And so all we need to do with this data is we're just going to copy it and paste it into our Excel worksheet. And that's what we're going to do for the first question, question number 1. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to that question. Yeah, the first sentence says copy and paste the subject number and vertical jump scores into an Excel spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, this is what you will do on your assignment. You will copy, okay, highlight, copy, and then go over to the Excel sheet and then insert these in columns A and B. You can just simply go to right click and then paste. And if you need to, you can widen. Yeah, I'm going to have to do that. Widen the cells, and so that fits the entire label in the cell. Okay, simple enough. And so yeah, so it's already organized for us in the format that we want in the Excel sheet, and so now we're ready to go. Also in question number 1, it says the subject numbers should be in column A. Yes, they are. And the vertical jump scores in column B. Okay, yes, that is already there for us. It also says arrange the vertical jump scores in order from smallest to largest. When we arrange scores this way from smallest to largest, that's known as ascending order. And so yeah, that's something that we are going to have to do here for this first question. After we've copied and pasted our data into our Excel spreadsheet, we need to arrange these vertical jump scores here into ascending order. Notice that currently right now they're not in order, right? We start out with a high number here, for example 30, and then jump down to 28 and 25, back up to 26, 27. So yeah, you can easily see here that these scores are not in order. They're not in ascending order, and we need to make them into that order. There's an easy way to do that in Excel. I'm going to show you here now. And again, look in the instructions. We need to arrange these scores in column D. So let's do that, okay? And so in just a second, we're going to include a label. Remember, labels, they're at the top, okay, the top of each column. And so we're going to save this cell 1 in column D for the label. So I'm going to start here in cell 2 in column D to start inputting the data. So you can do the exact same thing on your Excel sheet. What you're going to do is you're going to highlight this empty cell, cell 2 in column D. You're going to go to the function key, click, and then you're going to type in the function sort. Okay, we are going to sort. We are going to arrange these data in ascending order. You can click go. Okay, and then yeah, it should be the first option that pops up, sort. Go ahead and click OK. The very first thing it has, and it has a cursor there blinking, is the array. Okay, array, what is that? That's just a set of data. And so yes, we have a set of data here, our vertical jump scores. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put all these vertical jump scores in this array here. And so to do that, we're going to start here with this first data point. Click with your mouse and hold all the way down to the last data point in the column. Once we have the entire data set highlighted, that's actually all we need to do. You don't have to worry about these other things here. All you have to do is just simply highlight the data in column B here in this example. Once we've done that, you can go ahead and click OK. And then voila, the data is already organized for us automatically in ascending order. So pretty cool. So instead of having to do that manually, okay, ordering the data, we can let Excel do that. Last thing it says for column 1, or question 1, excuse me, it says label this column in order, okay, because now the data scores, the vertical jump scores are in fact in order, in ascending order. So let's label that in order, and it's bold, so I'm going to bold it here on the Excel spreadsheet as well. In order there, very good. Okay, and yeah, now we've completed this task. We've arranged the data in ascending order. Again, it's ascending. What does that mean? Like I said earlier, it starts with the smallest value and goes all the way up to the highest value, right? It starts out here, in this case, 23. Okay, that's the smallest value in this data set. And then it works its way up higher and higher all the way to the highest value, which is 30 in this data set. Okay, now that we've done this, the last thing, once finished, copy and paste column D as a picture in the space below. So we're going to highlight this column here, left click and hold. Right click after we've highlighted, copy. And then let's go down right below here and right click, and we're going to paste it as a picture. Okay, it says to paste as a picture. So if we right click, go to paste options, click on picture. There we go. Okay, and now we've got our column here, column D, the order of vertical jump scores in this ascending order. If we need to, again, we can adjust the size of this, okay, to make it bigger or smaller. Just make sure that I'm able to see it clearly. Okay, that looks good there. I'm going to go ahead and pull up these next questions on the same page so you can see. So the second question says, calculate the mode, the median, and the mean for this data set. Please refer to the PowerPoint for more information on these measures. If you look at the PowerPoint states that these in fact are the measures of central tendency. And so yeah, mode, median, mean, when we talk about measures of central tendency, that's what we're referring to. We're referring to these statistics here. To calculate the mode, what is the mode? The mode, if you look in the PowerPoint, it gives the definition. The mode is simply the score that appears most frequent in a data set. And so all we need to do is look at the data set that we created in ascending order and find the value, the score that appears most often, okay, that is most frequent. And so let's start here at the top and work our way down. 23, okay, yeah, that only appears once. Okay, 24, that only appears once. 25, same thing, just one score of 25. 26, we've got 2. Okay, 2 subjects scored a 26 on the vertical jump test. 27, okay, looks like we've got 4. 28, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 for 28. 29, 1, 2, 3, 4 for 29. And then last score 30, we have 2 subjects that scored 30. So after going through those, which one appeared most frequent? Yeah, it's going to be 28, right? 28, there was 5 subjects that scored a 28 on the test. Okay, 4 subjects scored a 27, 4 subjects scored a 29, but 28, because 5 subjects, 5 is more than 4. Okay, yeah, this appears most often. This is the most frequent score in this data set, is 28. It appears 5 times, as opposed to these other scores that appear 4 times or less. So our mode, what's our answer going to be? It's going to be, in this example here, 28. And again, remember, you've got different data, right? Your data is going to be different than mine, and so your values, okay, your answers to these questions are obviously most likely going to be different as well. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on to the next statistic, median. The median, if you refer to the PowerPoint, what is that? That's the middle score. The median is the middle score in a ascending data set, ascending order data set. And that was one of the primary reasons why in this very first question here, we arranged the order this way in ascending order, was for the median. In order to determine the median manually, we need to order the data in ascending order, such as this here. And so that's the primary reason why we did this in question number 1, is to answer these questions down here in number 2. The median, like I said, is the middle number. And so if you take a look back over here at our Excel spreadsheet, and you take a look here, again, for each score there's a subject. How many subjects do we have in this data set here? We have 20. 20 scores, we have 20 subjects. 1 subject for each score. Because the data set, okay, the sample size, the number of subjects is 20, which is an even number. If you take a look at the PowerPoint, it talks about this. When we have an even number set of data, okay, such as this here, 20, that's an even number. When we have it like this, what we're going to do is we're going to take the two middle scores, okay? So when we have an even number of data points in a data set, what we're going to do to find the median is we're going to take the two middle scores. So what are the two middle scores going to be here in this case? Well, they're going to be, again, kind of right here in the middle, okay? They're going to be right here, subjects 9, 10, and 11, okay, kind of right here in the middle. Those are the scores here that we're going to focus on. And so to help to kind of determine, okay, which values are those middle values, you could do this here. I'll show you. You could actually count, okay, and I'm going to do this here for you. You can actually count the number of scores, kind of like the number of subjects is over here. And so you can take this here, okay, and then you can actually drag this down, okay, to where there's 9 subjects right up top, 9 scores here. And then we're going to do the same thing down here as well. And so, yeah, notice how we've got 9 scores above and we've got 9 scores below. And so which two middle values was I referring to earlier? Yeah, it's going to be these two, right? It's going to be these two values here, 28 and 28. These are our two middle scores, our two middle values. Why are they the middle values? Well, again, if you break it down, right, we've got 9 scores above these two. We also have 9 scores below these two. So yeah, so that's kind of a trick to help you in identifying what in fact are those two middle scores. You can do something similar to what I did here. You can actually count the number of values above, count the number of values below, and then make sure that they're equal to each other, right? We've got 9 values above, 9 values below, okay, and so what are our two middle scores going to be? And they're going to be these two scores here. Now, if we had an odd, okay, data set, if we had an odd number of scores, for example, instead of 20 values here, 20 subject scores, let's say we had 19. If we had 19, an odd number, if you refer to the PowerPoint, when we have an odd number of data points in a data set, it's really easy to find the median. All it is simply that one middle value. Okay, so let me do that here actually real quick for you just to show. So if I were to copy and make a copy of this, okay, these same values over here in this column, let's say I remove this final value here, this final 30. And so again, instead of having 20 total scores, now I only have 19. Okay, where's the middle value going to be? Yeah, it's going to be in the middle. Okay, and again, you can do something similar to what I did here. Okay, you can actually count the number of subjects on top and below. Okay, so 9 here, and then yeah, we can do another 9 down here, right? And so yeah, it's pretty obvious, okay, which is the middle score. Yeah, it's going to be this 28 here. Okay, so in odd number of data sets, when we have an odd number of data points, it's just one middle score. Okay, just one value is the median. When we have an even number of data sets, like in my current example here, okay, where we have 2, what do? In order to figure out the median when we have 2, if you take a look at the PowerPoint, it tells you we're going to take the average. We're going to take the average of these two middle scores. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete these here. I was just showing you, again, an example of a data set where we had an odd number and figuring out the median. Okay, but I'm going to go back to my current example here. We have an even number of scores. Okay, because we have an even number of scores, we're going to find the two middle scores, and then we're going to take the average of these two. Now, in this particular example here, what do you notice? Yeah, you notice that these two scores here just so happen to be identical. They're both 28. However, keep in mind, we could have a difference, right? We could have one value, let's say, that's 28. We could have a value that's 29. okay, when we arrange these data in ascending order. That's possible, right? Okay, it's possible to have two different middle scores. Okay, again, the same thing applies. We take the average of those two scores. Now, when we take the average of 28, okay, these are our two middle scores. The average of these two would be, yeah, it's going to be the same. It's going to be 28, okay? The average of two identical scores is going to be just that. It's going to be that same score. In this example, it's going to be 28. And so what is the median in this example? Yeah, it's going to be 28. Why? Because that's the average of the two middle scores. Again, we take the two middle scores because in this example here, we have an even number of data points, an even number of subjects. When we have an even number, to figure out the median, we take the two middle scores and take the average of those scores. Before I go on here with the mean, one thing to note here, and I'll go ahead and record these same statistics down here on our Excel spreadsheet as well, is we can determine the mode and the median manually, okay, just like I showed you here. And in order to do that, we need to order the data in ascending order. Not so much for the mode, we don't necessarily have to do that, but definitely for the median, right? The median, again, if you look at the definition of the median in the PowerPoint, it's the middle score in a ascending ordered data set. And so, yeah, it's really important that we order the data in ascending order, such as this, when we're trying to figure out the median. If we don't do that, okay, and we try to figure out the median score when the data isn't ordered, we're not going to get the correct answer, okay? So, yeah, it's really, really important when calculating the median to do this. However, with that being said, Excel, okay, FYI, it does have functions that we can use to automatically calculate the mode, the median, and again, in just a minute, I'll show you how to calculate the mean. Again, I wanted to show you first how to do this manually, okay, by getting the data in order and determining these two statistics, mode and median, from this data set here. However, yes, we can actually determine these automatically using Excel as well. So I'm going to show you that here real quick too, how we do that. That way you know both techniques both ways. To figure out the mode, okay, again, you can type in, just like I've done here, the statistics that you're trying to determine, and then over here in the next cell adjacent to the one you're trying to determine, in this case, let's try to find the mode first. Highlight this empty cell here, go to function, and then type in mode, hit go. That should be one of the first options, mode here. Click OK, and then all you have to do is, and you can do it from either set of data. You can do it from the data here that's not in order, or you can do it from the data that is in order. You'll get the same answer regardless. I'm just going to show you right now. Again, we can do it without having to organize the data in order. Let me show you this. So yeah, if we highlight the data that isn't in order, it'll still give us the same value, the mode, and then click OK. So yeah, after we highlight all the data, click OK. And then yeah, 28. And sure enough, if you remember, that's what we got when we manually determined what the mode was. Remember, the mode is the most frequently occurring score in a set of data. And in this example here, it's 28. Similar process here for the median. Okay, I'm going to highlight the cell adjacent to the median. I'm going to go to function. I'm going to type in median. Go. Okay, that's the first option that comes up here. Click OK. Same thing, I'm going to click and hold and highlight all of these data here. Click OK. Okay, and again, when we do this, when we use these automated functions here, we don't necessarily have to do it on the data that's in order. Okay, we can do it on the data that isn't in order. Okay, again, the whole reason why I showed you that first step here in order is because this is how we determine it manually. And again, I think it's important as a student to understand how to determine these statistics manually before we do it automatically in Excel. I think it's important to have some basic understanding, so that's the reason why I showed you in this video first how to do it manually by putting the order in the data in ascending order and doing it that way first. Okay, but just know, FYI, we can also do this using the automated functions in Excel as well, just as I showed you here. The median in this example, what did we calculate? Yeah, it calculated, Excel did, the median is 28, and sure enough, yeah, that's what we got originally, right? So when we determined the median manually, we got a value of 28, right? It's the average of the two middle scores, 28. That's the same thing that Excel got here, okay, when we automatically calculate. So again, we get the same answer, right? There's just two different ways to do it. Last one here, the mean. How do we calculate the mean? The mean we're going to do automatic. I do briefly discuss in the PowerPoint how we calculate the mean, and I'm sure you've done this before in Math Class 101. How do we calculate the mean? It's simple, right? We add up all the scores in a data set and then we divide by the number of scores. However, again, take a look at this example here, this data set. There's only 20 scores. That's not a whole lot, but still, that's a lot of punching in your calculator, right, in order to solve for the mean. That could take a long period of time. It could take an even longer period of time if we had a larger data set. Okay, imagine if we had 100 data points instead of 20. Yeah, that would take a really, really long time if we manually inputted each value and added them all up and then divided by the total number of scores. That would take a considerable amount of time. So again, Excel is great. Excel is great because it automatically calculates the mean for us. Just as I showed you, it does also have functions to automatically calculate the mode and the median. So for the mean, similar process here. I'm going to highlight the cell next to the label I input for mean. Once the cell is highlighted, go to function, go to average. That's what we're going to use. Remember, the mean, that's what it is. It's the average of the scores. So type in average. Okay, here it is, the very first one, average. Click OK. And then again, you can highlight either one of the set of data, either the data that's in order or the data that isn't in order. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the data that isn't in order. We'll end up getting the same answer regardless. Click and hold. Okay, and then click OK. Voila. Okay, there we get our mean. Okay, and in this example here, my mean is 27.4. And so I'm going to go ahead and type that in here in my assignment. Again, you'll do the same thing for your assignment. Okay, you'll calculate the values over in Excel first, just like I did, and then you can input these values over here in your assignment, in your Word document for assignment 2. Okay, I'm going to bold that as well. Okay, now that we've calculated the mode, median, and mean, let's move on to the next question. What are the minimum and maximum values for this data set? Remember, last video I showed you how to do these, and so I'm not going to spend much time. I'm going to go ahead and do it over here on my Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and type in these statistics, minimum and maximum, down below. I'm going to widen this cell just a little bit so it fits the labels in the cell nicely. I'm going to click over in the blank cell next to the variable or next to the statistic minimum. To calculate minimum, go to the function. Okay, go to min or minimum. Remember, min is the function we're going to use. Okay, min. Click OK. Click and highlight all of the data. And again, we can do this on the data that isn't in order, okay, such as this data here. That's fine. Click OK. Okay, and we get a minimum score of 23. All right, maximum, we're going to do the same thing. Maximum, hit the function key. Remember, maximum, to get that one in Excel, it's the max function, so you can type in max, go. Yep, it's this one here, max. Click OK. Click, hold, highlight all the data for the vertical jump scores, and then click OK, and then we get our maximum value here. So in this example, we get a minimum value of 23 and a maximum score of 30. Does this make sense? Yeah, it does, right? If we take a look back over at our order data in ascending order, it starts with the lowest value first, the smallest, which is also the minimal value, and it ends with the largest, the maximal value. The minimal value, yeah, in this data set is 23. The maximal value is 30. So yeah, that does make sense, okay, that we got those. And again, You can do it how I did it, using the function keys to get the minimum maximum, or you can simply, just what I just did here, you can simply just look at the data in order once you have it in order, such as this here, and you can simply look at the top value, which is the smallest value, 23, and the largest value, 30. Those are going to be your minimum, 23, and your maximum, 30. Those are going to be your values here, okay, for my example. So let's go ahead and input those values into our assignment, those answers. So the minimum is 23 and the maximum is 30 in my example here. And again, remember your values, okay, for answers questions 2 and 3, yeah, they're most likely going to be different, right? You've got a different set of data, therefore your values are most likely to be different as well, so keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and move on to question number 4. Question 4, this is actually from, similar to last video. Okay, question number 4, where we arrange the data into a frequency distribution. So we're going to do that same thing again using Excel. It says type in the vertical jump scores starting with the smallest value in column E and the number of subjects who received a given score in column F. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Remember, I did this here earlier in order to show you how we determine the 2 middle scores in a set of even data. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete this here because we don't need it. That way it frees up our columns E and F for us to input our frequency distribution. I'm going to start here with cell 2 first for column E. Remember, in cells 1, okay, also for F1 as well, this is where we're going to put the labels. I'm going to go ahead and start inputting my data, however, in cell 2, okay, column E, and this is where we're going to input the vertical jump data. Where do we start? We start, if you remember, with the minimum value. Remember, the minimum value we just calculated was 23. So I'm going to start there, 23, 24, 25, okay, in order, 26, 27, 28, 29, all the way to my last value in this data set is going to be 30. Why? Because 30 is the max, right? There's no other values that are higher than that. 23 is the minimum, 30 is the maximum, and so yeah, so this is my data here. These are my potential data points. Let's go ahead and count, right? Let's go ahead and count the number of scores for each value, starting with the smallest, 23. How many 23s are there? And this is pretty simple, actually. Once we have it in order, ascending order such as this, okay, we can simply just look at each one in successive order. So starting with 23, yeah, there's only one. Okay, there's only one 23. 1. How many 24s? 1. How many 25s? 1. What about 26? 1, 2. We've got 2 subjects who scored 26. How many scored 27? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 scored 27. How many 28? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 scored 28. How many 29? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 scored 29. How many scored 30? 1, 2. Only 2 subjects scored 30. Okay, so what we just did there, right, is the frequency column there. We counted the number of subjects for each given value. Now that we've completed our frequency distribution, one last step, we need to insert labels. Label the first column X. Okay, this is just like we did in the last video. X. I'm going to bold it. I'm also going to align it to where it's right overhead the values. Okay, remember we can do this align right to do that. The label for this column here is our frequency. Okay, frequency. I'm going to use lowercase f, okay, as my label there. I'm going to italicize it. I'm also going to bold it just like I did in the last video. And then same thing, I'm going to align it to the right to where it's directly over the values. Okay, that's it. Okay, so we've completed our frequency distribution. Now that we've done this, once finished, copy and paste your frequency distribution as a picture in the space below. Make sure it's large enough for me to see. So let's copy all of the data in our frequency distribution. Okay, copy. Go down below, right click, paste as a picture. There we go. And again, make sure it's large enough for me to see. I'm going to make this a little bit larger. We've got enough room. So I'm going to go to picture format and increase the size. Okay, just to make it large enough, again, for me to see for grading purposes. Okay, now that we've completed our frequency distribution, we're ready to move on to question number 5. Question number 5, like I said at the very beginning of the video, we're going to create another frequency polygon graph similar to what we did in the last video. However, you'll notice particularly at the end here, we're going to expand upon that. Okay, we're going to expand upon that. We're going to do a few additional things to our graph that we didn't do in the last video, and I'm going to show you and spend a little bit of time specifically showing you step by step how to do that. Okay, so if you take a look at the top, yeah, we're going to use our frequency distribution data from question number 4, what we just created, to create a frequency polygon graph. Okay, and so in order to do that, just like we did in the last video, I'm going to click, and actually I'm going to click and highlight just the data. You don't have to click the label. So I'm just going to click and highlight the data here in our frequency distribution. I'm going to go to Insert, Scatter, Scatter with smooth line and markers, click OK. All right, there's our graph there. Cool. I'm just going to put it right here for right now. And just like we did before, and I'm going to go through these first steps fairly quickly because we've already done this. Okay, these first steps, we did these, or similar type steps, we did these in the last video, so I'm not going to spend much time on these. It says label. Okay, we need to include labels on the axes, label the horizontal axis. And remember to do that, chart design. Horizontal, label this axis vertical jump score. I'm going to bold it. I'm also going to make it black, okay, in order to make it easy to see. I'm going to go chart design again, add chart element. Now I'm going to do a vertical axis. I'm going to label this one frequency, okay, according to the instructions over here. I'm going to bold it, make it black, and also too, like I did last video, I'm going to make a little bit more space in between the label here, the axis title, and the actual values on this vertical axis. All right, once I've done that, then I'm going to remove the title. Okay, click on the title and then click delete on your keyboard. Let's delete the horizontal and vertical grid lines. Vertical grid lines, delete. Horizontal grid lines, delete. Now all we're left with is just the vertical and horizontal axes. We're going to make the line black. All right, let's make this line black. Highlight, right click, format data series. Go to paint bucket, go to line, solid line. Let's make this black. Cool. It also says include markers. We've already got the markers. That's what those dots are on the line. Black circles. So if we go to marker options, built in, yeah, this is the circle icon here. Good. It's size 5. That's good. We need to make sure that they are black. So I'm going to go to solid fill and go to black. And then last thing, it says no border. Okay, yeah, no border, no outline. So I'm going to go to no line for border. Boom, done. All right, and that's it there for that. Just kind of reposition so you can still see the graph. Okay, so now that we've done that, next thing it says insert major tick marks on both on the outside of both axes. And so let's do this one first. Highlight the horizontal axis, right click, format axis, go down to tick marks, major type, outside. Same thing, vertical axis, major type, outside. Cool, did that. Now what does it say to do? It says for the horizontal axis, make the minimum bound value 10 and the maximum bound value 17 with major units of 1. Remember, these are the instructions for your assignment number 2. However, for my example here, what am I going to do? I'm going to, again, a good rule of thumb is use the minimum and maximum values as the minimum maximum bounds for this horizontal axis. And so because my data is different, right? My data is different than yours. I'm not going to follow these specific instructions here, okay? Because my data is different, I'm going to change the bounds, okay? And my bounds are going to be slightly different than yours. So for your assignment, yeah, make sure and follow these instructions to a T. Make your minimum bound value 10, maximum bound value 17. However, for my minimum maximum bounds are going to be different. I'm going to make them according to my minimum and maximum values. So for example, my minimum value I calculated earlier, my example is 23. That's what's going to be my minimum bound value, 23. My maximum value was 30. That's what I'm going to change my maximum value to, is 30. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb. And so even if I didn't have these specific instructions here on the exact values that you needed to put for your minimum and maximum, again, just remember that when creating graphs, okay, particularly this frequency polygon graph, what should be your minimum maximum bounds for the horizontal axis? Just make them simply the minimum and maximum values. That's all you need to do. Okay, so yeah, fairly simple step rule to follow. Okay, for the vertical axis, and also too, one more thing, yeah, before I go to the vertical axis, remember major units 1, it's already set for us as the default 1, okay, so we're good to go there, 1 in between each value. Let's do the vertical axis next. For the vertical axis, make the minimum bound value 0. Notice that it's already 0, okay, it's already set for us. The maximum bound value 6 with major units of 1. The maximum bound value is already set it for us at 6, and yeah, sure enough, the major units are 1, right? 1 in between each successive tick mark. So that looks good, right? Minimum 0, maximum 6, major unit of 1. Okay, it's already set there for us in the default there, so we don't need to change anything for the vertical axis in this particular example here. However, if you do need to change it, okay, in order to comply with these instructions, make sure and do so. Okay, make sure and follow these instructions to a T. Remember, like I said in the last video, that's how I grade you. That's how I assign a grade for these assignments. So not only am I looking for, are you getting the correct answers for all these questions, I'm also looking for how well you can follow these instructions, especially the instructions here for creating these spreadsheets and graphs. If you don't follow these instructions exactly the way that I have them here on your assignment 2, then yeah, you're going to get points taken off from your assignment. So yeah, make sure and pay careful attention to these. Careful attention to these instructions and follow these exactly the way that I have them. Okay, now the next part of this is the new stuff. Okay, this is what I talked about earlier. We are going to expand upon the graph that we created last week, right? This is very similar to the frequency polygon graph that we created last week. Last week, this is where we stopped. Okay, this is where we stopped, and this is where I had you copy and paste the graph into your assignment. Now, obviously, we're not going to do that quite yet. There's still quite a bit more that we need to do here that I have instructions for. It says, next, create a red highlight box, 75% transparency, and place it over the area on the frequency polygon where the median and mode are located. Okay, so yeah, this is something new that we didn't do in the last video. To do this, I'm going to highlight my graph. Okay, again, how do you know it's highlighted? Well, there should be a ring, okay, around the graph. Now that it's highlighted, I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to Text, and I'm going to go to Text Box. I'm going to create a text box. Okay, I'm going to create something kind of like this here. Okay, I'm going to create a text box such as this. And where am I going to drag it to? I'm going to drag it to, it says in the question here, I'm going to drag this box and I'm going to place it over the area on the frequency polygon where the median and mode are located. So if you take a look at the Excel spreadsheet over here to the left, in my example, what are the median and mode? The median and mode in my example are 28. Do you see that? And so on my graph, that's where I'm going to drag this box to. I'm going to drag it to the 28. Okay, I'm going to drag it to where the mode and the median are. And in my example, it's 28. Okay, so do you see how I've done this now? Do you see how I created a text box, a rectangle looking box such as this? Okay, don't make it too wide. All right, if you need to, you can adjust the width of the box like I'm doing here. You can click and drag. And I would adjust the width to where it just barely encompasses the value, okay, the number. Do you see how my box, it encompasses the value here, the mode and median value? So yeah, so I would just make it to where, yeah, it just encompasses, right, those two, okay. It just encompasses this value here. And also to remember, before we move on, it needs to be red. So how do we change this to a red? Well, if you, once it's highlighted, once this box is highlighted, if you right click and go to Format Object, go over here to the right side, go to Fill, Paint Box Fill, go to Solid Fill, change the color to red, which is this one here. And then it says in parentheses here, transparency needs to be 75%. So let's do that. Transparency, 75%. Okay, and so I've changed the transparency. What is transparency? You'll notice over here the change, right? If it's 0% transparency, right, then it's completely filled. Okay, you can't see behind the text box. But if we go transparent and we make it 75% transparent, now we can actually see what's behind, right? We can still see the curve. The curve is still visible because we made this box transparent. So that's important. That's important, especially when doing something like this, when trying to identify a value, okay, or a set of values on a graph, is to make the boxes transparent. That way you can still see the graph in its entirety. It's not blocked, okay, by the box that you created. And so yeah, so now you can see that it is a red highlight box, transparency 75, and it's placed over where the median and mode is on the graph. And so yeah, so we've accomplished that here. You can easily see here the box. It highlights that value 28, which is the mode and the median. It also highlights the actual curve itself. Okay, so make sure, yeah, and have the box that's long enough, create a box that's long enough where it encompasses both the curve and the value on the axis. Now that we've done that, okay, let's move on. Let's create the next step, create a blue highlight box and place it over the area in the frequency polygon where the mean is located. All you have to do for this one here is I'm going to highlight this box that I've already created. I'm going to right click and go to copy, and then inside, once the box is highlighted like this, inside, let's see, I'm going to right click, okay, and again make sure that the graph is highlighted. I'm going to right click and paste. Notice how I've now included a second highlight box once I've done that. So essentially all I've done is I highlighted this, I copied it, and then I pasted it to create a second identical highlight box. The only thing we're going to change now is the color, right? It says create a blue highlight box, so let's do that. So if we highlight this new box, right click, format object, go to paint can, go to fill, solid fill, and then go to color. Now go to blue. Blue is this one here. Blue. Now we've changed it to blue. Good. It's still transparency at 75%, which is what we need. That's what the instructions say, so we're good there. It says place this box over the frequency polygon where the mean is located. So where's the mean in this example? Well, in my example here, the mean is set at 27.4. And so let's move, and again, where is 27.4? You might be saying, well, Dr. Palmer, there is no 27.4 on the graph. I know that it's not indicated here. However, where would 27.4 be? Okay, where would it be exactly? Again, it would be somewhere in between 27 and 28, right? 27.4, it's not quite in the middle, okay? 27.5 would be right in the middle, right? 27.4 maybe would be right here. Do you see where my cursor is? Where my arrow on my cursor is pointing? That's about 27.4 right there. Okay, so again, it doesn't have to be exact, but it does need to be pretty close when trying to identify where the mean is. 27.4 is going to be about right here, okay, on my graph. And so that's where I'm going to move my box. I'm going to move my box to where the middle of the box is right at about that point. So I'm going to move it, okay, to where it's right about that point there where the middle of the box is right at that 27.4. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Okay, make sure that it's even. Okay, the top of this box is even with the top of this box. Same thing here. Let's see. Go back. Might adjust it just a tad. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty close enough right there. Okay, so yeah, that looks good. And so now that we've aligned, okay, this second box, we've placed it right over where the mean, okay, is on the frequency polygon. Again, in my example, it's 27.4. Okay, that's good. That looks good. Okay, now we've completed that step. Now it says insert a yellow text box, 0 transparency, labeled median and mode, and a black arrow pointing to the location on the curve where the median and mode are located. Okay, so to do this, again, you can highlight the graph, okay, just like I've done here. Make sure the graph is highlighted. And one thing to note, if you don't do this If you don't highlight the graph, let's say I don't have the graph highlighted and I go to insert and text box, when you try to, at the very end here, eventually we're going to copy all of this and put it down here under question number 5. If you don't highlight the box, highlight your graph each time before going to insert text box, when you go to copy and paste, it's not going to paste the things that you're adding. It's not going to paste the text box that you're adding to your graph here in Excel. That's problematic, right? Okay, we want it to paste everything that we're doing over in Excel into our Word document here for assignment 2. Okay, if you don't do that, then yeah, you're going to get points taken off. I'm going to take points off. Okay, so to get credit, make sure that you each time you add a text box to your graph, make sure first, the first step before you add the text box is that this graph is highlighted. Now go to insert, now go to text box, okay, and then create a new text box. Okay, I'm going to create a text box, something like this here. It needs to be labeled what? Median and mode. Median and mode. I'm going to type that out. I'm going to highlight my box, okay, just like I have it here. I'm going to bold these, okay, because it's bold over here. I'm also going to adjust the size of this box. You can click and hold, okay, to where it just fits, okay, the values. Again, we don't want to make the box too big, okay, so make it big enough to where it includes the label here, median and mode, but not too big. Okay, so something about like that there, that looks good. Again, while we already have the box highlighted, this needs to be, if you look at the instructions here, it says insert a yellow text box. So now that we have the text box highlighted, if you right click, format object, again, go to paint box fill, go to solid fill, and then go to color, go to yellow, okay, yellow highlight, yellow text box. Now we've created a yellow text box here. The transparency, it needs to be 0%. Okay, yeah, you can see here that the transparency, once the box is highlighted, is in fact 0%, so we don't need to change anything there. That's the default. And let's place this. Oh, there we go. Let's place this on our graph close to where the median and mode is located. And so remember the median mode in my example here, and again in the frequency polygon that you created, it's also going to be reflected by this red highlight box. So the red highlight box, that's where the median mode is. So I'm going to put my median and mode text box here very close, in close proximity, okay, to where the median mode is located on the graph. Alright, it says one more thing we need to do here. It says once we've created the text box, we also need to insert a black arrow pointing to the location on the curve where the median and mode are located. So let's do that as well. Again, anytime we insert something, whether it's a text box or an arrow or shape, again, make sure before you do it, the first step, highlight this box. Make sure that your graph, make sure that your graph is highlighted, just as I've shown here. Once it's highlighted, okay, and again, you know it's highlighted because you can see the border. Notice how the border is highlighted now, right? We've got circles, okay, around the border. It's highlighted. Go to Insert. Go to, let's see if it has it on here. I might have to make this a little bit bigger for you to see. Go to Illustrations and go to Shapes and go to Arrow. Okay, go to Arrow, and then you can actually draw in the arrow just like I showed you there. You can left click and hold to draw in the arrow. Okay, let me shrink this back up now. Now that we've created our arrow, it also needs to be black. It says black arrow, and so once the arrow is highlighted, if we right click, format object, go to line, paint box, line, solid line, make this black. Also too, if you want to, now I don't have it on here on the instructions, but sometimes it's good to make it a little bit bigger, larger, okay, for someone to see. I'm going to make it a 3-point, okay, this arrow. Okay, notice how when I increase the width, okay, or decrease the width, the size of the arrow changes. So I'm going to make this 3-point just to make the arrow a little bit bigger, more easily able to see. And again, I'm going to adjust my median mode text box. Okay, and then yeah, I'm going to have this arrow, and it's going to be pointing towards where that median and mode are located. Okay, so yeah, so now we've got that. That looks good. Cool. Let's go on to the next step. It says the next step, insert a yellow text box labeled mean and a black arrow pointing to the location on the curve where the mean is located. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Again, another cheat that you can do is you can highlight the median and mode text box you've already created. You can go to right click, copy, and then inside the graph, once the graph is highlighted, right click and paste, and then you can simply just change this to mean. Okay, and then I'm going to adjust the size. Okay, and just make the box, okay, just big enough, right, okay, to where it includes the entire label. You don't want to make it too big. Okay, that looks good there. And then I'm going to move this text box close to, in close proximity to where that mean is located in my example. And in my example, right, it's the blue text box here. This is the mean. Okay, so I'm going to move my mean text box close to where this blue text box is. One last thing, we need to create an arrow. Same thing, just like we did earlier. We can do a little cheat here. Since we've already created an arrow, we can simply click on the arrow to highlight it, and then right click and go to copy, and then click in our graph, highlight the graph, and then right click, go to paste. Notice how that creates a new arrow, and then we can adjust the arrow, left click and hold, okay, to where, yeah, it's pointing towards where that mean is located, okay, on your graph. So yeah, something like that right there. That looks pretty good. Okay, cool, nice. So yeah, so now we've created, okay, our red and blue highlight boxes placed over the graph where the median, mode, and mean are located. We've also created our text box labels here, median and mode, mean, and arrows pointing to where these statistics are located on our graph. So that looks really, really good. Again, it's really important in statistics to make top quality graphs. And so these instructions here, I believe, are important in helping you to make the graph as best and visually appealing as possible. Okay, that looks good there. Okay, we've done that. All right, so now once finished, copy and paste your frequency polygon as a picture in the space below. You can either copy it directly from Excel or use the snipping tool on your computer. So just like I showed in the last video, either one is acceptable. I'm going to show you here real quick. If you highlight your graph, right click, copy, and then go down here and then hit paste as a picture. Boom, there we go. Okay, now we've got our graph in here. And remember, you can do either option. You can copy it just like I just showed you here directly from Excel. That's probably the simplest way. Or you can use the snipping tool on your computer. I'm not going to show it this time because I already showed it in the last video. If you need further reference, please watch the first video, the first how-to video, and it'll show you how to use that snipping tool. So either one is perfectly fine to use. It says at the very end, you may have to adjust the size so it's large enough for me to see. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of this just a little bit. So again, to do that, you can highlight your picture, your graph, go to picture format, and then increase the size. Okay, so yeah, maybe something like that there. Okay, that looks good. All right, very cool, nice. Nice looking graph there. Okay, again, man, after you get done with this class and in particular this assignment here, gosh, you're going to be an expert in Excel and making graphs. You know, if anything, after you complete this class, not only, you know, have a better appreciation for statistics, but gosh, my hope is that you'll also be better at making graphs. And again, I honestly think that a lot of these things that we're doing in these assignments, these are things that you can take with you. These are things that you can take with you beyond the classroom. Okay, after you graduate from Texas Tech, you need to make a graph, okay, for a presentation, let's say for a project that you're proposing to your boss. man, you can think back, gosh, Dr. Palmer, that was a great class, right? Statistics, okay? Yeah, that's exactly what you're thinking, right? Okay. Yeah, and so again, you can take some of the things that we've learned in this class, okay, and use them to your advantage, right, in helping you make presentations, helping you make graphs, things of that nature. Okay, so yeah, hopefully, you know, at the very least, you're now becoming more comfortable with using Excel to make graphs, do calculations, that sort of thing. Okay, that was my little spill on that. All right, let's go ahead and, yeah, we've already got 6 and 7 over here on the next. Let's go ahead and move on to the last questions here. Question number 6, the frequency polygon created in question 5 best represents A. Okay, let's look at our frequency polygon in my example. What does this look like? And again, if you need to, refer back to the previous PowerPoint. Okay, you can refer to this PowerPoint, or you can refer to the previous PowerPoint where we talked about organizing and displaying data. There we talked about different types of curves. We talked about skewed curves. We also talked about the normal curve. What does this look like here? In this particular example, this looks like a negatively skewed curve. Why is it negative? Well, we talked about it in the last video. It's negative because why? Well, the long tail, right? Where's the long tail? Well, the long tail's on this side of the curve, right? In this example over here to the left. The long tail, this is longer than this tail over here on the right, right? So this is the long tail here to the left. The long tail is pointing to the left. It's pointing to the negative direction. And because it's pointing to the negative direction here, we call this a negatively skewed curve. So again, in my particular example here, I've got a negatively skewed curve. So that's what I'm going to bold and highlight as my correct answer here for number 6. Again, remember, I said this before, I'll keep saying it, you've got different data. Remember, your data for your assignment 2 is different than my data that I'm showing here in this video. And so again, your graph, your frequency polygon, your curve could be different than mine here. Okay, and therefore your answer could be different here for number 6. So yeah, so keep that in mind. Remember, okay, just because my graph in my video is negatively skewed doesn't necessarily mean that your graph is also going to be negatively skewed too. Okay, it could be one of these others. It could be a normal curve. It could be positive skewed curve. It could be a negatively skewed curve. Okay, so again, just keep that in mind. You have different data, so make sure, look at your frequency polygon. What is that polygon? What does that curve best represent? That's going to dictate your answer here for number 6. In my example, okay, I have a negatively skewed curve. Last one, in the frequency polygon, where is the mean in relation to the median mode? Okay, so let's take a look at our graph that we created. Okay, our nice graph. Where is the mean in relation to the median mode? Again, that was one of the objectives of this week, is to understand the relationships between these statistics here. Notice how in this particular example here, the mean in relation to the median mode, the mean is to the left. The mean has shifted to the left, right? The mean is to the left of the median mode here. And so in my particular example here, and again, this is a characteristic of a negatively skewed curve, which is what my example is. I have a negatively skewed curve here. In that example there, the mean is shifted to the left. The mean is shifted to the left of the median and the mode. And so that would be my correct answer. The mean, okay, this answer here, choice answer C, the mean is shifted to the left of the median and mode. So that's going to be my answer for question number 7. And again, it could be different for yours depending upon the curve that you create in your frequency polygon for question number 5. Again, that's also going to dictate your answer for question number 7. Where is the mean in relation to the median and mode? In my example here, the mean is to the left of the median and mode. Now, why is that? Okay, I briefly touch on it in the PowerPoint, but why is the median to the left? Why is it shifted to the left in relation to the median and the mode? It's shifted to the left because if you notice here, again, it's indicated by this tail. Some of these extreme values, right? We call these extreme values over here that are far away, okay, far away from the median mode. These are our extreme values over here. These extreme values are to the left, right? 23, 24, 25. Because we have these extreme values here, even though we don't have a lot of them, right? Okay, we only have one person who scored a 23, only one who scored a 24, one who scored a 25. Even though, okay, we only have one subject that scored for each of these values here, that's still going to pull. Okay, these extreme values here is going to pull the mean towards these extreme values. So my extreme values in my graph, in my example here to the left, that's why the mean is shifted in that direction, has shifted towards the left in favor of the extreme values. Remember, the mean, unlike the median and the mode, the mean is affected by extreme scores. And so when we have extreme scores such as this, okay, and typically we have this when we have a skewed graph. Okay, in this case we have a negatively skewed graph. When we have a skewed distribution of data, a skewed graph, that mean is going to shift in favor of the extreme values. Okay, the extreme values are over here to the left, and so the mean is going to shift in that direction. Okay, the median and the mode, however, right, they are to the right of the mean. Okay, they are not affected, or typically not affected by these extreme scores. And again, that we talk about that in the PowerPoint. So for further information, please go to the PowerPoint. The mean is affected by extreme scores. However, the median and the mode, they're not. The median and the mode are not affected by extreme scores. And so, yeah, the median and mode are over here, but the mean obviously has shifted in favor of these extremes because the mean is, in fact, unlike the median and the mode, the mean is affected by the extremes. Okay, now that we've answered all of our questions, okay, we've inserted all of our graphs and spreadsheets, okay, answered these questions here, 2 and 3, included our in order data here for question number 1. Now that we've done all that, we're ready to go. Remember, last thing, make sure and save this to your computer. Also too, gosh, I just remembered, okay, make sure and remember, I just forgot, but yeah, make sure and remember to include your name. Okay, that's important. Okay, so the very first step, yeah, before you forget, don't do like I did. Okay, remember to include your name here, and then yeah, hit save. Save this to your computer. Once you have your assignment 2 saved, you've got all of your questions answered. Now you're ready to resubmit. You're ready to re-upload your assignment to Blackboard. Okay, so re-upload it to the assignment Dropbox on Blackboard, and then you should be good to go, okay, for this assignment. All right, that's it. Again, if you have any questions, make sure, read, review, study the PowerPoint carefully, watch this video, okay, and then if you still have further questions after reviewing the PowerPoint, after watching the video, yes, absolutely, feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Again, hopefully this video helped. And helped you, and I think it does, the PowerPoint and the video, and I think they will help you in successfully answering questions with your data for your assignment 2. All right, thanks. We will see you next time. Bye.